Welcome to The Connection Code, a podcast on which we explore the relationships that make your life and work just a little bit better.
Hi, I'm Rachel, Jeana and Rachel. I run 3PR and just had my company's 8th anniversary this month, which I'm excited about. I focus on healthy food brands, but I am really obsessed with connection and the power of introductions.
I'm Jeana Anderson Cohen, and I started A Sweat Life, which is a company that's focused on helping adults make friends through fitness. I've been at it for about 13 years, and I'm pretty obsessed with friends. Rachel, you wrote our big question this week.
I do. I have a big question for you. I don't know your answer, so I'm excited to find out. But the question is there a time in your life where you have taken a really big swing, something that felt risky, the reward was uncertain, but you just went for it?
Okay, so Rachel, for as long as you've known me, in our year and a half of friendship, have you gotten the sense that I am or am not risk averse?
I can't believe how risk accepting and sort of like risk embracing you are. So this is a weird question because I do know there's going to be a couple big swings. Yeah. It's just which one?
Okay, so good. I do give off that sense. So I actually love a risk. I love taking big chances. I love making mistakes. Like I'm Miss Frizzle incarnate. I think like for me, at this point in my life, almost 40, like the risk itself, the swing itself is more exciting than it is scary. But I do remember a time when like taking even like a small swing to ask for help in taking the risk was terrifying. So maybe I'm going to answer your question, but it's like the thing that was scary was never the risk. The thing that was scary for me would be like, hey, person A, I'm doing this thing. Can you help me with it? Because the idea of rejection was much more scary to me than the idea of failing. I love to fail, but like if you tell me like you don't want to help me or believe in me, like that's gonna wound me.
Rejection was scary.
Rejection is scary.
The bold action.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I feel like that's a whole conversation we can have because
yes.
I'm in awe of all the things you've done professionally that to me require so much confidence and willingness to just leap where there's no net. And you're telling me the part that actually was most unnerving to you was just asking for help.
Absolutely. And I've come around as I've gotten older. Like now I would say like I index pretty high on confidence. Like I've worked a lot on asking for help, but like that was the thing that always felt scary to me was the asking for help and the fear of rejection. Now like you can reject me and I'll be okay. It's not you can't hurt me because that's a very like bold and ridiculous thing to say because I am a sensitive human, but like it's going to be harder.
I still want to revisit this. Yeah. I was thinking in such literal terms because we had this special guest and he made a geographic bold move that changed his life. And so I started thinking about my own decision making around that.
I need to hear this.
So the moxie we have at like 21, 22, I wish I still had it in some way. Mm-hmm. But when I was a senior in college, I was certain I wanted to move to Chicago. Mm-hmm. What was less certain was how and how it would be funded and where I would live and what I would do for a job. So many questions, only that I knew I felt this pull to Chicago. Mm-hmm. So senior year, I just made the decision that I needed to commit and the other things would eventually fall in place. So I signed a lease in Lincoln Park for a summer with two guys, mm-hmm. one who I went to school with, one who went to another school and I hardly knew. And then the plan was in the fall, after this 3-month lease was up, I would move in with my friend Amy, who I also went to business school with. So I sort of had this like real estate part, but that was it. Mm-hmm. And so I called my parents and it's March of my senior year and I am sweating bullets about getting an internship or a job or having any sort of forward momentum. So I was like, Mom, Dad, I just want to let you know, I am moving to Chicago after graduation. I have signed a lease with John and Raj in Lincoln Park. And my parents said, great, good luck. You're cut off. I mean, we did college, so this is on you. We think you should move back to Minnesota because the job market is looking very grim, but good luck. And so I still can't believe I did it. Like, this was such an undertaking, and I had nothing lined up. But fortunately, it came together. So I committed to the summer with Jeana and Raj. I moved to Lincoln Park. I got internship offers at the 11th hour. And then I still was not going to have enough money. So I needed to pull in a waitressing job. Can you, like, looking back, right?
I can absolutely identify with this because I lived the exact same first year in Chicago. Okay, keep going.
So I don't know if all of our Chicago years overlapped, but I lived on Lincoln, and there was a cocktail bar, elevated bar at the time called Bordeaux's.
Okay.
And I thought that would be the perfect place to work because I could walk between my apartment and Bordeaux's without worrying. But I didn't think they would hire me. So I went in as a customer thinking they'll be a lot nicer to me if I ask for a job if I'm also at the same time paying for my meal. So sure enough, I went for dinner. I asked if they were hiring. I pitched myself as a waitress. For whatever reason, they said yes, as I will talk about later. Not a good waitress. But that was my entry to Chicago. I lived with the guys. Then I lived with my friend Amy. I got this internship. I worked 6 days a week. I interned in PR. Then I waitressed on weekends. And I had a blast. I had still no money, not a lot of free time. And it was an incredible entry into Chicago.
Probably very exhausted.
But exhausted in the way that, like, when you're in your 20s, you're just like, it was also the era of Red Bull and it was like Jaeger bombs.
I know it well.
Yes.
Okay, so Rachel, I feel like I totally blacked this out because I moved to Chicago similarly after going to the University of Wisconsin. I had an internship, 11th hour hire as well, at a PR firm.
I wish we'd been friends back then.
I know. Well, it was, for me, it was like, we're a couple years apart. You would have been like, who is this girl? She's not detail oriented, because I hated PR. And so I worked one day at this PR firm. I went to one day of this internship because it was in the suburbs. So I drove to it. I just, like, my gut was like the whole day in knots. And then when I got there, like, everyone to me, it was like the coloring of the film went blue. Like, everybody looked miserable to me. And, like, things kept happening where it was like my computer stopped working. Like, meetings weren't happening on time. Like, everybody was grumpy. And, like, the HR person who came to try to, like, fix my computer said, like, please don't quit to me. And
on day one?
On day one. And, like, hearing those words was like, oh, I can quit? And then that night at 2 a.m., I, like, couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I sent an email saying, like, call it even. I never filled up paperwork. I'm not coming back.
Wow.
Yeah. So I guess that was a big swing.
That is so ballsy. And I have such respect for 22-year-old Jeana because we really don't usually feel empowered to say no to a work situation that we're not comfortable with at that early stage of life. But that you heeded your gut and just felt like this is not for me. Good for you. And here we are.
I hope they're doing well. I don't know. I think about them often. They're doing okay.
I once had a day at my first PR job. So the internship became a job. And it was a good first job, but it was still stressful and I was underpaid and a lot was coming my way that I wasn't necessarily prepared for. And I remember being near Millennium Park and leaving the office on lunch break and just crying in the park because I was so overwhelmed and I wasn't that happy. And they said, you should really want your boss's job. And I liked my boss, but I did not want her job. And I thought, what the fuck am I doing?
What am I doing here?
Working so hard.
Yeah.
And I'm so broke and I don't want my boss's job. Like, should I be in PR? And the answer was yes, but a different form of PR.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, it's a great place to cry. It's
and it turns out not your office. You leave and you cry in the park.
there's a part of Millennium Park. It's like the fountain and a wood walkway. Great place to cry.
Oh, this was pre-development.
Yeah.
This was like before Millennium Park had the big endowment,
really
and I was
beautiful.
just crying in the open.
Oh gosh! Now you can face away from the people, hang your legs over. Rachel, do you want to tell us about our guest today?
Oh, we have such a good guest today. So Kevin Boehm is an incredibly accomplished restaurateur, and he's the author of an upcoming memoir called The Bottomless Cup, which comes out in November. And I've been lucky to know him for about 15 years, which is crazy, and have been so impressed with the career he's built and the way that he can just turn ideas into reality. I mean, the restaurant business, we both love it. I mean, it's mashugana, it's nuts, but it's like the most fascinating, exciting thing is like you have an idea and then you create a place and people come and have life experiences within your four walls. They get engaged, they celebrate anniversaries. That's where their birthdays are. Like, life happens in restaurants. And so Kevin is just like, if he wasn't such a great guy, you would hate him because he's a really good writer and he's a really good restaurant owner and he's just multi-talented and also a really good dresser. And we like to joke about his hairline. So we have a really lovely conversation
in that
with
it
Kevin.
is a good hairline.
Like, he has such great hair. Yes. So I think we have this like really fascinating discussion with Kevin about the book, but also his career and somebody who's just masterful at forging connections.
And here we are with Kevin.
Hi, Kevin Boehm.
Hi. How are you?
So nice to have you.
I'm so glad to be in your world, in your podcast world.
In our podcast world. So Jeana and I have been looking forward to this conversation. We did this initial list of people that we wanted as dream guests, and I'm going to tell you that you were at the top of that list.
Rachel goes, you weren't on it, but you were just...
So there was page 1, and then when I got to page 2, I was like, Kevin, yes, guy.
And then right after Paul Rudd, it was...
Do you know Paul Rudd?
I don't know, but he'd be a great guest, I'm sure.
Could you get him?
Did you know that Paul Rudd and John Hamm were like roommates when they were like teenagers?
Did you listen to Amy Poehler's podcast?
Yes, he had John Hamm.
Me too. Yeah, it was so good.
Wait, I love Amy Poehler's podcast. I just giggle along as if I'm in the room. It's so good. We're not a good hang, but we are carving our own path.
Yeah.
You guys are great. Rachel, you've been a good hang with me since 2013.
Oh, wow.
Wait, Kevin, maybe longer because
maybe 2012.
Do you when Girl and the Goat opened?
Yes.
What year was that?
That was 2010.
Remember, I interviewed you for NBC Digital.
Right. It exists somewhere.
Is that how you two met?
I had it. What?
Is that how you two met?
It was around then. So I had this like very fledgling, very aspirational career idea that I would be in PR, but somehow also be in media. And I don't know how I talked myself into a sit-down interview with you and Rob at Girl and the Goat, and I wanted so hard to I wanted to be impressive, but I wasn't because I didn't know what I was doing. So I think I had like a tiny little mic, and it was Marcus Riley, and I interviewed you guys.
No idea what we said back then. We were a couple of knuckleheads. So let's try to find that. If we could cut in the podcast to that clip, it would be lovely, right?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't remember anything you said except what you were not supposed to say. So I must have been asking something like, what's next for you guys? Breaking question. And you accidentally told me.
Probably GT Fish.
I think it might have been the
GT Fish was the next restaurant.
Okay.
Oh, no, Jay Parker opened. No, GT Fish opened before Jay Parker. It was GT Fish. So, story that most people don't know is we were opening Girl and the Goat. It wasn't open yet. And there was this great deal on the Tizzy Malou building where you could buy this lease that was like way below market. It was like a 40-year-old lease from Granwell's Tap. And we went and looked at the building, and I was just like, I don't know, dude. We had to pay key money for it. And it was like all the money Rob and I had. I mean, we opened Girl and the Goat. I might have had like $400 in my checking account, and I had like 2 kids. And so when we were leaving, we go, well, we can't do anything with this yet because we have to open up Girl and the Goat. So we locked the door, and Rob looked at me and he goes, well, either we're going to be a huge success or our kids are going to have to pay for their own college. And it was really this kind of slingshot moment because a couple weeks later we opened up the books for Girl and the Goat, and it booked like 3 months in advance, and we're like, okay, I think we're going to be okay. And then for 6 months we didn't go back into Tizzy Malou. It sat there empty for 6 months, and then we went and we threw a garage sale for all the stuff at Tizzy Malou, and then we opened GT Fish, and it ended up being a success too. So it was this really a pivotal moment where we were gambling on ourselves, where we hadn't even, we did moderate success. Boka in the beginning was a moderate success. Landmark was a moderate success. Perennial was a moderate success. And then we were like kind of saying, okay, we're going to go all in here and open up these 2 more restaurants, one in River North and one in West Loop. And And thank God, worked.
I mean, Girl and the Goat was a phenomenon.
Yes.
I don't think I'd seen anything like it as somebody who was newer to the restaurant scene but paying close attention. And it just crushed, and I think continues to. I mean, kind of a unicorn.
I'd never seen anything like that before. We had to go to New York for something, and that had been the James Beard House. Right after Girl and the Goat had opened, it was me, Stephanie, and Rob, and our publicist called and was like, "Hey, stop by the bookstore, stop by a magazine store and grab Savor." And on the cover of Savor was the best new restaurant in America, Girl and the Goat. And we were like, "What the fuck?"
Our dream.
Yeah.
And so I had never had my phone go off so much for reservations and stuff like that. So it was everything you'd ever dreamed of. Before that, it was like you were constantly, you're trying to pitch people to come in the door, like, "Hey, would you like to come to my restaurant?" And then people were asking, and so it was fun.
Yeah, I did beg, borrow, and steal for a reservation as like a young, I think, was it 2010 at this point? Like, was that?
So 15 years
2010.
ago.
Yeah. Because I remember I tweeted at Stephanie Izard,
As one does.
as one does.
Sure.
And she responded and got because my mom was coming to town. She loved Stephanie from Top Chef. She had to see her in real life. I told her this. She got us seating like right at the chef's table, and it was the best day of my mom's life. Came and say hi. It was like lovely.
I love that. The biggest lengths I saw someone go to get a reservation was we got this phone call and they were like, "Hi, this is Tom Smith from CAA, and we have Matt Damon in town, and Matt would like to get a reservation for 6 at Girl and the Goat this Saturday." We're like, "Oh, we'll make it happen." And then they check in. 6 people check in, none of which are Matt Damon. The whole thing was a ruse. They're like, "Oh God, sorry, Matt couldn't come," and blah blah
Couldn't
blah.
make it.
And Rob, who can always sniff out a bullshit artist, was like, "Guys, just fess up." He goes, I respect the game. Just fess up. They're like, "Okay, it's all bullshit."
Oh my God, that's so ballsy, because clearly Matt Damon would not be present at the dinner and some explanation needs to transpire. But that is a testament to how badly people wanted the big face.
That's right. And I remember Ed Burns did an interview, and this was like in 2011, I think. And he was like, he was in Chicago, and he was like, "How do you like Chicago so far?" And he was like, "I like everything except for the fact I couldn't get into Girl and the Goat." And he was still in town, and we got a message to him through people, and then he came in. Old Eddie Burns.
Oh my God. Wait, I'm doing a horrible job of introducing you, but this is why I love talking to you, is that we've been friends for many long.
Don't worry, we can do tape later.
Yeah. So I've had the good fortune of knowing Kevin for give or take 15 years, and I've loved watching your ascent and being a Boka fan and having your daughter babysit for my daughters and going out to dinners and all the things. So, okay, so for anybody who doesn't know, which would be a mistake, you are an insanely successful restaurateur. You've opened 40 restaurants in 30 years, which gives me heartburn thinking about it. You opened Beyond, this amazing wellness club. I don't know, you were James Beard Restaurateur of the Year in 2019, which is actually killer timing. And you have 3 lovely children. And then you have a book coming out, this memoir, The Bottomless Cup. Yes. So
Thanks.
I've been privileged to read alongside you as you've been developing this beautiful, beautiful, heartfelt, poignant, emotionally raw book. But I feel like you should set up what it's all about. And then I have some probing questions.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a Trojan horse, because I think that people are going to think it's one book, and it's not. It's not like this, "Hey, let's tell this story of this kid who grew up in Springfield and then opened up all these restaurants." I mean, there's a lot more to it. I have a strange family backstory, which I'm not going to give away on this podcast. Like, I'm not going to give away the whole book on this podcast. Sorry, but like, I will tell you that one of the first lines of the book is in the summer of 1989, halfway through a Western omelet and a cup of coffee, I found out that I wasn't really Kevin Boehm. And so there is a whole family mystery to it that changed kind of the trajectory of my life in good and bad ways. There's usually something behind ambition, and a lot of times it's a chip on someone's shoulder. I had a massive chip on my shoulder for a long, long time, and and a pretty empty hole that I threw a lot of things in it, mostly ambition. And for a long time, I mistakenly thought manic moments were happiness. Most people think that happiness is directly correlated to pleasure, but it rarely is. Those are manic moments. Usually it's centered around someone who's found peace and someone who has a lot of self-respect because they do a job and a job well done, and they have self-respect from those kind of things. And so I was like, every time I opened up a restaurant, I would get this huge rush of dopamine, and I would be like, oh, there it is. That's happiness. How do we do more of that? So why does this kid from Springfield, Illinois end up opening up 40 restaurants and do all these different things? And I was just constantly throwing stuff on the horizon that I could look forward to kind of like make myself high. It was like a bad heroin addiction. And so I'm a lot different now, thank God. But it took me a long time to figure out what true happiness is. And there's this long period where you get the laws of diminishing returns with anything, right? So the more you try to produce these manic moments, every time you do it, you get a little less high. And there's a point in the book, right around 2021 where, I sort of hit rock bottom in my life. And as I say in the book, true rock bottom is a gift. And if you ever listen to Dax Shepard, he tells a great story about sitting next to his bed this is the Alcoholics Anonymous book, and there's 36 entries in it. And the last entry is rock bottom, but the 35 before it, he thought those were rock bottom too. Mm. It's just he says very hard for him to look at all those entries, because every time he wrote in it, it was like, this is it. And so from 2021 on, I kind of got to build my life in a more sustainable way, in a more peaceful way, in a more loving way. I lived my life out of fear for a long, long time, and so I don't make any choices made based in fear anymore. I try to base them in love if it's all possible.
Okay, I'm jumping around. I want to go to the why question. I was thinking about this yesterday. So I may have mentioned to you, but maybe like last year, I went to coffee with a former restaurant critic, and your name came up.
Yeah.
And I was saying that you're writing this memoir, and it's really real, and it's very revealing, and it goes into some real hardships. And he was very surprised. And he's like, Kevin has a perfect life. Like, what are you talking about? Like, to him, you read as such a golden boy with a Midas touch. Everything was really successful. The image that he was working off of is that Kevin has not gone through anything that bad. And and I know that's not the truth, but I think what's so interesting is this memoir cracks it open. And you are really dispelling the notion that it's been easy or glamorous or all the things that people might assume based on looking at you from the outside. So why did you want to go there, and why did you want to open up your life story?
Well, first of all, I think I helped create some of that. I wanted so badly to be zen and to have a great life and to be happy. And so I created this avatar that was, I was never even honest about my own childhood. I made up stories about it. I created this whole new me. And, it's funny. I even had a hospitality voice that was different than my real voice. Like I would get into a restaurant and it would be a couple registers higher. Be like, oh my God, welcome to the restaurant, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's fucking exhausting. And you create this idea of who you are. And then one day you're just like, all I want for the rest of my life. I actually heard someone say this. A friend of mine said, all I want for the rest of my life is to be transparent. Mm-hmm. And for people to just accept my transparency. And he said it to me, and it punched me right between the eyes, because I had never done that. And it's exactly what I want now. And so with the book, it's just kind of like, okay, do you really want to know who I am? Here's what it is. After, 5 decades of pretending, I just get to be myself, and I can drop my shoulders a little bit. And I'll be excited when it comes out because, obviously there's some stuff I don't want to give away before the book comes out, but I'll be excited to just be able to talk kind of freely about these things that I've never been able to talk about.
Yeah, I guess, Kevin, I've seen you share stories. So I really want to dig into you as a storyteller. I've seen you share stories. One, you spoke at the Sweat Life Summit in 2020, right before the pandemic, February of 2020. What a time. And then just recently, I was sitting at Working From in the Hoxton with a group of Sweat Life ambassadors, and you swung through and floored us with a story from the book.
Yes.
And I don't think I've ever seen someone come so alive. So I'm just curious, what does it feel like to you to connect through stories? Do you feel like you're connecting? Is there like an electricity to it?
Well, first of all, as Americans, we're obsessed with storytelling, right? TVs, movies. We all build these narratives on social media and people follow them. Like, we love to listen to great, compelling stories, right? And so I'm one of those people. I love a great story, the beats of it. You know, somebody who can really choreograph a great story and take a good pause and then hit you over the head with a line. And so I'm an appreciator of storytellers, both comedic and dramatic. I love watching comedians get on stage and do their little stylings and all that sort of stuff. So I think I've always paid attention to that from other people. And for me, I think we learn our best lessons through stories more than we do just someone being prescriptive, right? Someone can just tell you like, hey, do you want to know the ways to a better life? Do this, 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 and this. Or if you're Aaron Sorkin, you say, a man falls into a hole and a priest comes by and he says, hey, help, I've fallen into a hole. And the priest writes a prayer down a piece of paper and he throws it in the hole and he keeps walking. And then a doctor comes by and the guy in the hole says, hey, can you help me? I'm down here in the hole. And the doctor writes a prescription, he throws it in the hole and he keeps walking. And then a friend comes by and he jumps in the hole with him. And the guy says, what the hell are you doing? Now we're both stuck down here. And the friend says, yeah, but I've been down here before and I know the way out.
Oh, Kevin, this is why you're such a fucking good storyteller.
He's like,
I mean,
no.
And an Aaron Sorkin appreciator.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so he tells that story in The West Wing. Mm-hmm. And when I hear something like that, I'm like, okay, I want to tell stories and give speeches that are impactful. And there are some people that are very good at this prescriptive sermons. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy who tells it through storytelling. And so when I go through life and something happens to me, when I look back at it, one, I'm happy because I'm the sum of everything and everyone I've ever encountered. But two, I might have a story that comes out of that. So I love having something happen to me that I can turn into a lesson or a story. And so even if it's something bad, I'm like, well, you know what? It's a great fucking story, man. Let's figure it out. And so, you know, writing a book is 90% storytelling and 10% commentary. Yeah. And so it started with me just figuring out do I have enough good stories to write a book? You know?
The answer is yes, as it turns out. One thing I want to go back to, and again, I know that you're sitting in this really wonderful place today, but you mind some darker periods in the book. Yeah. And there's this connection-disconnection duality. So I've seen it firsthand when you touch tables in restaurants. Nobody turns on connection mode like you do. It's your superpower, and all of a sudden, it's front row seat to the Kevin show, and people are in it, just like you were describing. But then you reveal in the stories how you feel internally so disconnected. So I'm interested in how you manage that tension or that gulf between connection, Kevin, and how performative it is and how you're engaging all these guests and creating these special experiences. But then you were living in this space of feeling incredibly disconnected yourself.
Well, I don't want it to seem like it was totally insincere. There were many, many years there where that's what filled me up. But, like that was where I got my joy out of it, was like being on a floor and making people happy. And I really did sincerely like that. The only problem with it is it is depleting. So if you're on a floor for 12 straight hours, and the beginning part of your shift, you were trying to pump up and restore your staff, and then in the middle you're trying to restore guests, and at the end of the night you're restoring your staff again, and then you go home to your family and you don't have anything left for them. That's where I was left, was that I really did try to emotionally put everything that I had out there, which made me sometimes a good restaurateur but not a great human, because I would go home and I just would have nothing left, and and so it was like I would just dump all. It was like a dopamine dump. It was like doing ecstasy and then waking up the next day and feeling like you wanted to kill yourself. And so I constantly had these jumps between 9s and 10s and 1s and 2s. And so, but when you're young, you don't really connect feeling sad or being in a bad mood, or at least you didn't in the 70s and 80s, to you having some sort of a problem. You just thought everybody deals with this. Oh, well, I get the fucking blues sometimes. Who cares? I'll figure out how to navigate it. When the restaurant world was how I navigated it.
And I should reframe
until
it.
You can't navigate it.
Yes. By no means is what you were doing with tables disingenuous. I just think it kind of spoke to your ability to pull in this part of yourself that was able to quickly connect. I mean, I was never a great waitress. In fact, the part of waitressing that I was the worst at was all of the tasks. And the part that I was the best at was the rapport. So in college, when I waitressed, my roommate would get so mad because she was a technically great waitress. Everything went as planned. She filled the waters. They had napkins. The bill dropped on time. The food came out hot. Like, her tables were happy with the technical aspects of her service. And I screwed up everything. But my tables loved the conversation, and I had regulars who would email me and say, when are you working? We'll come in. So I cultivated the personality aspect, and then I made just as much, if not more, in tips, and it just drove her bananas. So I believe and support that you can sort of host these one-person shows at your table, and you can really bring people into your world and create instant relationships and instant rapport, which I do want to credit you with. I just think it's sort of something to marvel at that you were able to do that over and over again while also going through your own stuff that required some deep inner work.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know any other way through it, right? And so I never sat back and like thought about it too much. Like I didn't get a therapist for like 49 years, which was a mistake. And so I didn't think there was any other way. I was like, okay, this is the cards I've been dealt, and I'm just going to have to deal with it,
Yeah. Well, I want to think about like your own personal connections and the people who are like filling your cup through like friendship, relationships. Yeah. So, because the service industry can be disconnecting schedule wise with folks who are not working in it. So I'm just curious, like, how have your relationships evolved as you've come up like in the front of the house at the restaurants to like running the entire show? How has everything changed?
Yeah, well, I'm actually really good at cultivating friendships and always have been. But in the beginning, my friendships were like within the restaurants. It was like, my first restaurant was with my girlfriend at the time. And so really it was just kind of us. And then my second place was a bar, and like, I didn't have to go see everybody because everybody in town came to see me. And so I would have like relationships within my restaurants. And then, by the time I got to Chicago, it was like, Rob Katz and I were inseparable for like, there was like 15 years when we ate every meal together and we did everything together. But I've been super fortunate to like, along the way through Seaside, Florida, and Springfield, Illinois, and Nashville, Tennessee, and Champaign, and Chicago, and even New York City, throughout my travels and restaurants, to build some really beautiful friendships. And I keep in my notes section of my phone, one of the most important things I have in life, and I recommend this to all the listeners. I have a document that is everybody that I love that I know loves me. And it's a list. And if you need a level set in your life, it's a good one, you know, to think, okay, you're worried about this bullshit, and this manager's not working out, and this person just quit, and there's a delay in this restaurant. And then you look at that and you're like, oh, okay. I mean, I'm okay.
A love list.
It's a love list.
It's a love list. Kevin, I want to cheat a little bit because I know the anecdote I want to hear because I really love this story. So we're going to reverse engineer it. But one of the things that Jeana and I love to do on this podcast is start with a big question. And today's big question is about taking big swings, like where you just really go for it and it feels high risk, maybe high reward, you don't know. And I think you have one of my favorite stories about doing so. And it involves two of your college roommates, and the trifecta of you is just insane. But can you tell that story just because I love it so much?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I went to University of Illinois, and two of my housemates were budding legends. One, Mike Hopkins, is, if you look him up, is a U.S. astronaut, and has had several space missions. Was the commander of the SpaceX mission. He was an aeronautical engineering major at University of Illinois, and the captain of the football team, mind you. He was an incredible dude. And then, literally Captain America. This great looking guy too, and fierce and scary. And then
so annoying.
And then Dave Eggers, and Dave Eggers finalist for the Pulitzer, and has written 50 books, and started McSweeney's, and wrote the screenplay to Where the Wild Things Are. I mean, so on and so forth. And I was this green kid from Springfield, Illinois, who felt very dumb next to those two. And I was pre-law at Illinois, and Dave was giving me shit one night about it. He's like, dude, you don't really want to be a lawyer. And I'm like, you're right, I don't. And he goes, well, why are you studying that? I go, I don't know, out of fear disguised as practicality, And he's just like, well, what do you really want to do? And I'm like, it's kind of cheesy. And mind you, in 1989, it was not as cool to be in the restaurant business as it is now. Definitely was not a cool major. Restaurant management. And I was just like, I don't know. I don't know anybody. I don't have any money. I don't have any mentors in it, And he goes, Kevin, Mike thinks he's going to be an astronaut. And so it was a moment where I was like, touche. And I really started to think that maybe I could just go somewhere and work at a restaurant. Not in this town, because there's not great restaurants in Champaign, Illinois. I also did not know where great restaurants were. I thought, it's probably where all the tourists are. That's probably where all the great restaurants are. So maybe it's like Florida on the water or something like that. And so that's what I thought in my head. And so, the following semester, I packed my Jeep up and I left. And, a lot of bad things happened. I ended up homeless, and I was working in an amusement park because I couldn't get hired in any of these restaurants that I wanted to work at. And then I wrote a fake resume, and they hired me. And much like Rachel, much like you in the beginning, I didn't have any technical skill, but I had a good emotional IQ, and I was really concerned about my tables having a good time. And, through that, I ended up, being a good server. Once I got some self-awareness and figured out how to do the technical parts of service.
Well, let's not forget about your jungle cat encounter.
I did get attacked by.
Yeah. This is the best.
I was attacked by a bobcat.
But not in the wilderness.
Not in the wilderness. Over the years, I don't know if people love this story. I was living in this little condo, and one day, outside my condo, behind it, was like every unit had like what looked like a little closet outside the back door that was a laundry room. And so I went out the back door's open, and I'm in the little laundry shack doing my laundry, and something runs in the back door. But I just see something scurry. I can't really tell what it is. I just figure a dog just ran into my house. There were these little thin townhouses, and it ran up the stairs. So I was like, oh my God, a freaking dog got in here. So I go into my roommate's room because I hear it going crazy, and it jumps on my back. And I can't see it. It's behind me. And I go, ah! I fell to the ground. I was like, I flipped it off the back of me. And then I like crawled out of the room and slammed the door, and it ran into the door. And so I call the cops, and I'm like, There's something in my house. I think it's probably a dog. My back's bleeding. Please come help. So animal control came, and when they got up there, it was a bobcat. Somebody's keeping a bobcat illegally as a pet, and it got out.
Did you get an immediate rabies shot?
I did not. Here's the crazy story. I'm super broke, and they found the person who's keeping it. It had a collar, and there were people out there looking for it with their flashlight. And so I go to these people, and I'm like, "Here's what you're gonna do. I go, like, my back was bleeding, and my shirt was all ripped up. I go, you're gonna give me $500 in cash." And they're like, okay. And so so this was like, and so this was at night, and like the next day we went to the bank and they gave me $500 in cash, and I never got my, I think I poured hydrogen peroxide on my back and hoped for the best.
I did not know that you elicited money from the world's strangest animal injury.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Amazing.
My roommate, actually, that was his idea. He was like, dude, you need to get some money out of this.
Get some cash.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I actually think you could have asked for more.
I know.
I don't know what the going rate
Inflation.
is for surprise bobcat.
Yeah.
There was no standard of bobcat injuries, so I 500 seemed like $500 in 1991 was a couple thousand now, though, probably.
It's like $10,000 today.
That's amazing. I did not know that code into the story. Oh. Well, I have one more question, but I want to be fair to your question.
Oh, no, I'm enjoying these questions.
Kev, if you get the pleasure of having dinner with Kevin, there are so many stories and so many characters, and it just, I don't know, I love having a front row seat to the adventures of your life.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's end on this then. You have been such a successful restaurant owner. You have really shaped not only Chicago's culinary scene, but now cities beyond. You have this memoir coming out in November, The Bottomless Cup. What does Kevin 2.0 look like? Like, how do you really see this next era unfolding?
Well, I think there's a few things. One, I've never been a homebody in my entire life. I've always been the guy who's like, oh, my house was only for sleep, really, and for Sundays, with my kids. And for the first time in my life, I've created a home that I'm sitting in right now that I really like spending time in. And I really like writing. I hope that people like my writing enough that I can continue to write. Well, time will tell.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
But I'm not. But even if they don't, I can just write for myself. So I'm not tied to any type of end result. I really enjoy the process. So no matter what happens with it, I'm going to be happy. But 2.0 is, I don't really drink anymore. I do love working out and wellness and beyond as a stabilizing force in my life. I'm going to have a lot more quiet moments in my life, and hopefully continue to be a storyteller. So that's both speaking and writing. I really like to speak too. So, I love getting up on a stage to a group of people that want to hear stories and try to do the best I can to entertain.
I would love to throw one monkey wrench in, one last little question in.
Yeah.
So I think, Kevin, just hearing your story, seeing kind of like how you've evolved over the years and just how you're so good at zeroing in and connecting with people, if you were to give someone advice on how to connect in 90 seconds or less, what could they steal from you?
How to connect with other people?
Yeah.
Well, I think, it starts with understanding who your audience is. So no matter if it's a business or it's a speech or whatever, you need to know who they are and what drives them and what motivates them. So whether you're managing somebody or speaking to somebody or really know what's going to get them. When I do a speech, one of the first things I ask is exactly who are the people that are going to be sitting in the audience, and that imbues everything that I say. And then listening, right? People like other people who listen to them. So listen as much as you speak. And they'll feel connected to you. So it's not just a one-man show. Life should be a dialogue, not a monologue. And so I guess those are the two biggest things, and sincerity. Chicagoans especially have a really good bullshit detector. And so if you're trying to sell people and you don't really believe, or you don't feel, there's no feeling behind what you're saying, they're gonna detect it. I know it in myself. I know to pull myself out or off the floor now if I'm not feeling it, because I can't hide it like I used to. I was really good at hiding it back in the day. I'm not so good at it anymore.
I actually think that's a sign of evolution. You know what I mean?
I think so too. I'm
It's
okay with it.
Yes. I wish in my parenting I could pretend more, but I'm also really bad at that.
It's funny. Like, I used to watch. I'm a huge late night talk show fan, and you could never tell when Carson was annoyed. He was always the same guy. But you can tell when Letterman was grumpy.
Letterman, yes.
He would be over it some nights, and I loved that about him. That he just was like, this is the ABCs of me.
I like when people on SNL break too. I love when
That's
the
right.
actors find it so funny that they themselves can't contain
That's right.
it. So maybe what we all really respond to is just real authenticity, and when people cannot put up a different face. I was thinking earlier of something you said. My friend has a quote from her mom, which is, if you wear a mask long enough, it becomes your face. And I think it's a great endorsement. Yeah.
That's it.
It's a great, right? I love that.
That was it for me. I was
Yes.
like, I think I wrote in my book that I was like a method actor who was so deep into the role that I got lost in it. And I
think,
completely lost myself.
And I get that. I think it's a coping mechanism out of trauma. I think when you have a really hard situation, it does make a lot of sense to perform the person you want to be, to kind of pull yourself through a tricky time. Like, by no means am I a therapist, but having done therapy, I get why people might adopt a persona that they wish was them until they feel better on the inside. But again, I think the ultimate work is to say, that's not me. I don't want to be this pretend person. I'm just going to be the real version of me. And it's going to be complicated and sometimes messy and not always palatable, but that's who I am.
That's right.
Yes. But we really like who you are. We think you're wonderful.
Oh, thanks, babe. I feel the same way about you.
So even though the book doesn't come out until November, can we pre-order soon?
You can pre-order now. It is available on Barnes & Noble, right on Abrams Press, my publisher's website, on Amazon. If you go to my Instagram, and I think my website will actually be up tomorrow too, which is like thebottomlesscupbook.com. And so you can order from all those places.
And again, as somebody who has read so many iterations of this book, I can say, as an avid reader, that it is a beautifully told story. It is engrossing. It is emotionally captivating. It is funny. It is heartbreaking. There's great photos of Kevin's hair journey.
It's been quite a hair journey.
It's been quite a hair journey. You've always had good hair, but there are evolutions of that style.
There are, yeah.
So order the book.
Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
You're on our love list.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you both. Bye.
We have show and tell time. This just makes me so happy because it makes me feel like we're in kindergarten together.
Yeah.
And we each are reaching into our primary color backpacks and pulling out an art project to show each other. So Jeana, what's your show and tell backpack today?
Well, okay, so it's very interesting how many times Paul Rudd has come up on this podcast today. I think it is a great indication that Paul Rudd should come on this podcast.
Paul.
One
day.
My people will call your people. So Paul,
He seems really nice, too.
He does seem really nice, and also, like, genuinely, I hate saying, like, people are funny, but, like, genuinely funny and, like, fun to be around.
Yes, I've loved him since Clueless.
So he almost didn't get the job on Clueless, which he reveals on Amy Poehler's podcast, Good Hang.
Oh,
you need to listen to this
I can't
episode.
wait.
I'm not
I
going to
really like her podcast, but I'm a few behind.
It's like it's so good. Okay, so he's actually starring in an upcoming movie. It premiered last year at like festivals. It's called Friendship. it's a movie about male friendships. It's Paul Rudd and Tim Robinson, who you may know from like I Think You Should Leave. He's like
not Tim Robbins. Tim
Robinson.
Okay.
Let's see. You know him from a lot of memes.
Okay. The meme guy.
Yeah. But does like this really fun kind of comedy where you're like everybody's uncomfortable. And so the movie itself is about male friendship and one falling apart. So I cannot wait to watch it. But I also wanted to share some male friendship facts.
Oh,
yeah.
Which is interesting because my husband Ruben and I, for anybody who doesn't know Ruben, a talk about male friendship. So I think this might dovetail.
Oh, excellent. So it's interesting. So my very favorite best friend who I've never met in real life, Dr. Robin Dunbar of Oxford, of the numbers, Dunbar's number. So shared in a paper called Sex Differences in Close Friendships and Social Style that men's friendships are rather anonymous and club-like. And what he means by that is that men's friendships tend to be friendships of convenience. So they're generally like a place or an activity. So if men become geographically separated or the activity goes away, the friendships tend to fade.
Oh.
Very interesting.
Yes.
When compared to women.
I think not all, but women will hold on with both hands, white knuckle a friendship through the tougher moments just to make sure that just because a place goes away or an activity goes away, they don't lose the connection. And what Ruben and I were talking about, kind of inspired by your 36 questions, was that he wishes it was as easy for guys to have friendships in the way that women seamlessly do, that I can say to my friends all the time, do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to grab coffee? Do you want to take a class together and like work out and then have brunch afterwards? And we can do all of these alcohol-free, low-stakes activities and catch up. Whereas for men, it's so centered around drinking and sports. And Ruben likes both of those things, but he's like, at this life stage, I don't really need to just drink to drink, and I don't always want to watch a game. Like sometimes I want to talk to somebody. But men don't go for walks the same way, and they don't go take a yoga class together the same way. And I'm not saying nobody does.
Right.
But I think in his world, he's trying to find a way to have more seamless male friendship moments that don't require sort of the tentpole things that guys do.
Yeah, and the data supports what he's saying and what you're saying, that it tends to be like for a place and for an activity. So like if he wants more of these, I also think like there are some up and coming like groups that are helping men make friends outside of these two things. Like we're seeing, did Danielle Robay bring it up on the podcast that there was a group of men who were going for walks with strollers in Brooklyn?
She could have, but I think that's so cute.
Yeah, so there are groups organizing around doing activities exactly like what Ruben's describing, like outside of the bar, like together, you've got something in common. You're like men with children, you want to take a walk, you're a little lonely. So I think this is percolating under the surface. So I think like men are starting to talk about their feelings more. Like we're seeing sort of the stigma pulled off of that. And I think friendships thrive with feelings.
Yes. And I should say, it's funny because he has an incredibly active WhatsApp group of his college friends. So he's in heavy communication with friends that are all over the country.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it always translates into quality one-on-one time. And it's nice to see faces. So, Ruben, I hope you don't mind that we had this whole sidebar. But I think just as women lean so much into friendship and it fills your cup, it's important for men to have great relationships and good FaceTime together so that they feel seen and heard.
Yes, I love that. Rachel.
Wait, that actually goes really nicely into the show and tell.
Yes, tell me your show and tell.
I actually, as much as we talk, I can't believe I forgot to tell you this. So
I saw it in the notes. We by the way, guys, I want you to know at home, Rachel and I do a great job prepping. We're really good at this.
As in the last minute, we think, what should we talk about? No, my parents asked if we like really memorize what we want to say. And it was like, oh no, we have a very skeletal idea of where we're going.
Outline and our souls.
Yes. So speaking of soulful and friendship, I was in Austin on a work trip. I was out with my clients at a restaurant.
This just happened.
This just happened. This just happened last week. Okay, so this was last Wednesday, I think. So I'm at this restaurant, with my wonderful clients and some other people they're entertaining, and Brene Brown is in the building. She's in the restaurant. And I love Brene Brown. I have Atlas of the Heart on my nightstand. I read the whole thing. I went to see her interview Kara Swisher in Chicago. I love her advice in parenting, but it could be for anything, about having people that protect your flame if you're a candle versus the kind of people who want to blow it out because your light makes them feel inadequate. So I've tried to talk to the twins about having the kind of friends that would protect their birthday candle, not the kind of friends that would blow it out. So there's Brene. We had a journey. Okay. We sent over dessert. And she really loves the company I was there with. So we're like, oh, this is a win. Like, the dessert is from the company that she loves.
Yeah.
The waiter forgot to tell her who it was from. Because I'm like, she left the restaurant and she didn't say anything. I feel like she would have acknowledged. And the waiter's like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that part. And I was like, oh, that was the part. So my client realized she was sitting outside with a work companion. And I was like, that's it. I am going to be shameless. We are going out there. So my client and I headed out to the balcony and we did a Brene. Just want to say hi. So we explained that we were with the company that she loves. We had sent the dessert. She was so nice. They say, like, don't meet your heroes. And I think that sort of is this banner idea of, like, be careful in meeting people you respect and admire because they just might not be as you picture, right? And she was exactly what I pictured. She was smart and she was funny and she was engaging and she asked questions and she was so easy to talk to. And my client and I kept trying to be mindful of overstaying our welcome, which I am not great at. But every time we were going to exit stage left, she was still into what we were talking about. So we probably had a 10-minute conversation.
Oh my God.
I know.
Well, that's her whole thing, right? Like, she shows up authentically. She's like daring, you know, like she shows up as her whole self, and she also is very, like, she advocates for listening. So it doesn't surprise me for even a second that Brene Brown would listen with her whole heart and soul to what you had to say to her. I think we all, like, if you've read anything by Brene Brown, you have, like, nuggets that you use every day. Like, you have the candle thing. I use generous assumptions every day of my life. Like, if someone does something that maybe, like, you could consider wronging you, give them the most generous possible assumption, and it will change the way your day is shaped around it. Like, we love you, Brene Brown.
Oh, Brene Brown, yes. She's so great. She's so brilliant. I find her insights to really, in an era where there's so much to sift through and a lot of things are not new or novel or thought out, right? Like, just little quick hits. Like, she's got the goods. Yeah. She's done the research. She is so thoughtful. Yep. And she recommended revisiting her book, Braving the Wilderness, which came out a while ago, but apparently really hits with where we're sitting culturally right now.
Interesting.
So I think maybe as a future show and tell, I will read Braving the Wilderness, which I haven't, and report back.
Do you own it?
I don't. Do you own it?
I think I might. I just did a donation, but I can check.
Oh, I would borrow your copy if you have it.
Okay, excellent. Oh my gosh.
Yes, so Brene, loved. The glasses, the hoops, the blonde hair. She's so cute.
She's perfect. She's kind of Miss Frizzle too. You know, like, take chances, make mistakes.
Yes.
Love her. Okay.
I think I was the Magic School Bus. Is this Miss Frizzle?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to place it.
Okay, so Miss Frizzle is, I would say, like, my whole cultural identity of childhood, because PBS Kids was what I watched, loved. Like, you could sing the first two notes of the Wishbone theme song, and I would be right there with you. Did you watch Wishbone as a kid?
No, I'm just laughing because if your attachment to Miss Frizzle reminds me of how obsessed I was with Punky Brewster.
Oh, yeah.
Were you too young for Punky?
I was a little too young for Punky. And we also didn't have cable, so, like, PBS was Punky on cable? I don't think so, right?
I mean, I'm trying to think if this was the era that preceded cable. She might have won on one of the main channels.
Yeah,
but
Punky Brewster, man. No, I had Miss Frizzle. I had a storytelling dog named Wishbone.
Okay. We had different TV experiences.
And then the kids that came after me had Blue's Clues and Steve. Like, how lucky were they? to have Steve from Blue's Clues. Did you babysit kids who watched Blue's Clues?
But nothing makes me happier than the fact that the twins love to watch the shows I grew up with.
Oh, amazing.
So they have gone through Fresh Prince, Boy Meets World, Full House,
Okay.
Family Matters. I mean, you name an iconic show that I grew up with, and we have rewatched it together. It's so wonderful.
Oh my God, I would love the girls to have a podcast where they react to the show.
Well, teaser, the girls that want to interview us, so we could probably ask them for some TV feedback.
Okay, I love that. Okay, should we have a connection conversation?
Yes.
It's time for a connection conversation. Rachel, would you like to go first?
Yes. Also, I just forgot to say, they did have a lot of thoughts about the Saved by the Bell fashion. There were some notes.
Okay.
On the bangs.
Guess what? It's going to come back, because everything does. I don't know if floofy bangs are going to come back.
I don't think the bangs are coming back, but Kelly Kapowski, so cute.
So cute.
And Shira did say, she goes, Zach Morris is hot.
Zach Morris is hot.
And you know what? He was.
I liked AC Slater more because I felt like Zach kind of had like he was a little too smooth, you know, like to borrow from another show. He had an Eddie Haskell thing.
Slater was the better choice?
I thought AC Slater. I loved AC Slater.
This is controversial.
I know.
He was definitely.
Hey, preppy. Like he was kind of a dick too. Like he was sexist, but like looks
I was going to say misogynist, but that wasn't it. But he was very sexist.
Hey, mama.
The character was.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, like looks alone. AC Slater was my jam. But and I did think both of them were cocky and like overbearing in different ways. AC Slater was too much misogynist. Zach Morris was just like the unearned confidence that only like a high school boy can have.
Well, apparently in real life, he dated Lisa Turtle for quite a while.
That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. I love that for them.
Yes, I did a deep dive into Saved by the Bell after the rewatch. Okay, connection conversation.
A connection conversation.
This is where we always go. I just want to say that I have been so touched that people from different corners of my life have reached out to compliment this podcast. And I say this because it is a little vulnerable to decide, hey, we're going to throw a podcast into the world, and it's going to be our thoughts and opinions and voices, and it's very much a reflection of who we are. And so thank you, Scott. Thank you, Abby. These were 2 recent notes I got. We hadn't talked in a while, and the fact that you have listened and affirmed what we're doing meant more than you know.
I also, to pile on, Rocio, and as well, if Ambassador mentioned like how she loves the podcast. She noted like specific things from it that she was instituting in her life. Like we love hearing from you. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
Oh yeah, I should have told you that sooner. She told me last night.
Okay.
Would you like my connection?
Yes, I want your connection.
Okay, so if you listen to the episode of The Connection Code featuring Sarah Spain, you may have heard in real time when I realized I had forgotten Rachel's birthday. And Rachel,
okay. I didn't tell you. You didn't forget. I didn't tell you.
Well, okay.
That's different.
So I think at some point, like you had mentioned the date of your birthday, like maybe months ago, and I didn't write it down.
Which is normal.
But the reason I bring this up is not to guilt trip myself or to make you feel like you need to bring me back to happiness. It's to say that I want to be the kind of friend who remembers birthdays and like makes a big deal out of them. So like this is more of an aspirational chat. Like so today, as I was thinking about like how can I be the kind of friend who remembers birthdays, I went to a store like while I was walking my dogs and picked up like a bunch of birthday cards so that I would just have some.
Smart.
And then I committed to just like putting people's birthdays like the second I hear them in my calendar, not their contact, so that my calendar would remind me.
First of all, I love this, and you're gonna die laughing. Do you see that clipboard right there?
I sure do.
That's my birthday list.
Rachel has
so
a birthday list.
I have done the calendar thing. I've done the reminder thing. But I feel like the problem is I don't know what's the birthday until the day of. And so I enlisted my daughter Kayla, who has an excellent memory. And I was like, let's think of everybody's birthday and put it in a Word document. And I'm going to print it and put it on a clipboard. And then I can't not see it. So I think that I made this list before we became good friends. So you're in my calendar.
Okay.
But I need to add you to the birthday list.
I love this birthday list because then it's like every month.
I like documentation.
Yeah, and every month you can kind of look at it. I knew you would have a solution for this because you are the kind of friend who remembers people's birthdays.
Some people do a week reminder in their calendar, but that's a level I have not reached.
Yeah. And it's also like you can set it and you can forget it. Like it pops up and you're like, great.
Yes.
go to the wayside.
And isn't it funny how sometimes people's birthdays lodge permanently in your mind, and then some people the date just is so elusive?
Yeah. Okay, so my college ex-boyfriend, who shall forever just be my college ex-boyfriend, but his birthday is the day before my birthday.
Oh, so you always have to remember.
And that's annoying. Imagine being like, I want to forget you, and then every year being like, well, it's his birthday. Upstaging me again.
Oh my gosh. Well, you are so sweet. I love that you have this intentionality around birthdays. I'll give you my birthday list template.
Okay, great.
But I love it.
Well, this has been another episode of The Connection Code, a podcast about friends, connections, work, and everything in between. This is a production by Two Connections, Rachel and Rachel, and me, Jeana Anderson Cohen. You can follow us on Instagram or on LinkedIn using our full names, and we would love to hear from you. Shoot us a DM or a message on LinkedIn. As Rachel and I have just pointed out, all of your messages mean so much to us. And if you have a line to our Dream Connections, Paul Rudd, Brene Brown, Dale
Polar,
King,
Gail King for sure. Priya Parker.
Yeah, just shoot us a line. We'd love to hear from you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.